At last, we have finally reached the NBA Finals matchup that I'm sure everybody expected and anticipated. This year's rendition will see the Denver Nuggets face the Miami Heat for all the marbles, and there is a lot to talk about. In this video, we're breaking down all things NBA Finals, including the strengths and weaknesses of both teams, players to watch, game film, and keys to victory for both Denver and Miami. Hey there folks, my name is Dylan Brett, and on this channel, we break down all things basketball and watch the game from a new perspective. Just wanted to welcome you to our basketball community before we keep going. Now, before we go any further, let's address the elephant in the room, that being this matchup as a whole and the numerous complaints surrounding it. It says a lot about the state of this league and its fan base when the mere existence of this matchup has prompted large-scale boycotts from groups of ignorant people. With the Lakers and Celtics both in their respective conference finals, many fans, including the casual audience as a whole, was expecting the glamorous, historic matchup of two legendary squads with 34 combined titles. Instead, we got the ugly Frankenstein version of the NBA Finals, but there's still a ton to be excited about for this series. For decades, basketball has been sold by drama, stars, and divas dictating the narrative. After all, this is a transactional league built on dramatics and popular faces moving places. This year, the finals have given us a matchup of two teams that were built the right way, operate the right way, and fought their way into the limelight through sheer force of will. So do me a favor, curb your criticism, and let's enjoy some quality basketball. Starting with the Nuggets, this is a team that had to fight tooth and nail for every bit of respect that has come their way, after being undersold all season long. After being snubbed for his third straight MVP, which I think we can all agree on now, Nikola Jokic has used this playoff run to bring his game to new heights and assert himself as the best player in the world by far. His partner in crime, Jamal Murray, also took this opportunity to remind the basketball world of who he was after being sidelined with a potentially career-altering injury. The list just goes on with guys who have proven themselves this season as you look up and down this roster. This group of guys has ascended from scrappy underdog to potent powerhouse, and they now stand 4 wins from completing the ultimate redemption story. As for the Heat, this is a team that saw its journey begin all the way back in the play-in tournament as the 8th seed and hasn't looked back since. These guys have been the underdogs in every single game they've played this postseason and were given just a 3% chance to upset the Boston Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals before blowing the C's off their home court to advance. Their leader, Jimmy Butler, is probably the most confident man on planet Earth right now, and his scrappy band of role players, including the red-hot Caleb Martin, have played off his energy perfectly. Any success that this group has enjoyed begins and ends with teamwork and culture. So, who has the edge in this unexpected matchup? I watched every single play between these two teams over the past few years to answer that very question. It's time to fire up the film and dive in to find out. This series begins and ends with the question of how on earth Miami plans to stop the big Serbian, Nikola Jokic. Actually, scratch that because stopping him simply isn't possible. Slow down, Nikola Jokic. I'm going to preface this by saying that Bam Adebayo is without a doubt one of the best defenders in the world, in my top 3 to 5 without a doubt, but with that being said, he simply cannot guard the Joker straight up. His blend of speed, athleticism, physicality, and finesse on the inside make him an absolute nightmare for a player of Bam's size and lack of agility to defend. In their 2 matchups this season, Bam has spent about 20 minutes guarding Jokic straight up, good for about 75 possessions. In that time, Jokic has dropped 20 points and 5 assists while shooting over 45% from the field. In those 75 possessions, the Nuggets as a team have scored 84 points, obliterating the league average points per possession. So if you can't guard him straight up, why not try doubling him? Well, that works against just about any other traditional 5, but Joker's court vision and ability as a passer make doubling him down low complete suicide. Denver's guards are trained to trigger a series of cuts when Jokic is doubled, and he will find the open man, no matter how unorthodox or just plain impossible that pass may seem. It's well established that Miami is the NBA team most renowned for using zone, as their patented 2-3 has been utilized on over 18% of possessions in the playoffs, the most among playoff teams by far. Don't expect to see much of this in the finals though, as the Nuggets have 2 of the 3 most effective lineups against zone in terms of points per possession. Not to mention, Mike Malone and the Nuggets love to get Jokic involved in the high pick and roll, which would carve up that 2-3. This leads to a disgusting 2-man game with Jamal Murray. You can't drop against these sets to compensate for his ability down low, because he can also beat you with range or kick off to Jamal Murray, who has been absolutely on fire in the postseason. You can't hedge or blitz because he's guaranteed to carve you up and find the open man when teams are too aggressive on the ball handler. Miami's best bet may be to ice these ball screens with players like Kevin Love or even Haywood Highsmith. That way you can limit the number of directions that Jokic can beat you from and keep him constrained to the baseline. What makes this man truly unguardable is not his skill set with the basketball in hand, but his ability to make those around him that much better. The Nuggets' lengthy cast of journeymen and role players such as KCP, Jeff Green, and Bruce Brown, I can name tons more, but those guys have all been elevated to a new level by their MVP. So for the Heat, it simply could be a case of limiting the players that surround Jokic while accepting that he's going to get his. Jimmy Butler is one of the best off-ball defenders in the league, and Spoelstra does a fantastic job at putting him in a position to deny off the ball. There aren't many routes to go when tasked with defending a unicorn as good as Jokic, so the road less traveled may prove to be the most successful. So what to do if you're Miami? Jokic is going to dominate the headlines all series long, and if you're the Heat, you aren't going to mitigate or prevent that. What you can do is try and go punch for punch with the superstar, much like you've been doing to guys like Jason Tatum and Jalen Brunson all postseason long. The Heat lead all playoff teams by shooting 39% from 3 this postseason, and have 6 players on the roster at or above that number from beyond the arc. The Heat also have one of, if not the deepest roster in the league, and it could be getting even deeper if Tyler Hero is available to make a return from injury. Miami ranks the top playoff teams in percentage of bench minutes, and it will be interesting to see how Michael Malone manages his rotation in response to Miami's depth. Much like I expect to see with Miami defending Jokic, Denver defending Jimmy Buckets could become a collective task as well. In the Eastern Conference Finals, we saw the Celtics defend Jimmy in just about every way imaginable, and it was very effective in certain spots. We saw every ball screen defense in the book, heavy switches, and at least 5 different face-up players guard him, even a box and one at some points in the series. However, this is a Denver team that is predicated on size and length, and guys like Aaron Gordon and MPJ could cause a matchup nightmare on the defensive end for Butler. The Heat will more than likely try to put Jokic in the high pick and roll and spread out the defense while making the big man attempt to defend as large of an area as possible. I don't anticipate Bam finding much success down low, so this will lead to them having to use the middle of the floor as a catalyst for their sharpshooters outside. One of 2 things are going to happen if Miami wins this series. Either a Herculean performance from Jimmy Butler that sees him etch his name into the halls of NBA history, or a quietly very efficient series from guys like Duncan Robinson, Caleb Martin, Gabe Vincent, and maybe even Tyler Hero on the perimeter. I think if Miami is going to give themselves a chance in this series, they're going to have to do it with speed and offense rather than physicality and defense this time. Ultimately, what makes this series so intriguing is the fact that these 2 teams are polar opposites on just about every stylistic spectrum. Denver ranks among the fastest-paced teams in the playoffs, while Miami ranks dead last. Miami ranks first in points off turnovers, while the Nuggets rank tops in the league in assist-to-turnover ratio. Denver ranks second in fast break points, while Miami is near the bottom of the league. You get the idea. I can keep going on and on with these numbers. You can look at endless stats and analytics when you try to break down this series, but I ultimately think the team that's able to dictate the tempo and control the style and pace of play will control the series as a whole. These are 2 teams that are known to try and assert their will, and they both boast coaches that are extremely reactive to their opponents. Now, this isn't an official prediction by any means, but from a pure matchup perspective, I'm going to give Denver the edge. I simply think this roster is constructed perfectly for a playoff series, and their torrid tempo coupled with imposing size is a superhuman combination that will be impossible to stop. The Heat thrive off of their opponents' mistakes, and this is a Nuggets team that simply doesn't make any, as they lead the league in assist-to-turnover ratio, like I said. Couple that with Denver's startling efficiency at home with an 8-0 record in the playoffs, and a Miami team fresh off a grueling 7-game slugfest, I like the Nuggets in 5 to 6 games. I think the longer the series goes, the better chance Miami has if they can weather the storm early. With that being said, I'm not ruling out the hottest shooting team in the league by any means at all, as Miami is dangerously efficient from the field at the perfect possible time. So, will the Joker of all trades finally complete his trophy cabinet with a ring, or will the league's most polarizing talent complete the ultimate underdog story? In the end, history is sure to be made, regardless of who comes out on top. Enjoy the series, folks.